Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mandy the Handmade Homeschooler, and today it is time for another book video. So today I'm going to be reviewing, I think 8 books or so, maybe 9. I did read a whole lot, but it's not as much as it sounds like. I know 9 books sounds like a lot for 1 month, but I'll explain why it's broken up that way. So first, if you don't know, or if this is your first time seeing me, I mainly review homeschool curriculum, but I'm a big reader, and I also review novels and theology books and all kinds of books that I read throughout the month. So I have a book review for the whole month of just different books that I have read since the beginning of that month. So that is what this is, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. Now, I mainly just read Christian literature, but every now and then I'll throw in a book that is a secular pick or something from my children's curriculum that might not necessarily be Christian, but it might be like a classic. And I like to review those pieces just because it helps me understand what my kids are reading, and it helps you better decide if your kids should be reading that too. Okay, so the first one I want to get out of the way is the one that I actually forgot to put into last month's video, which was Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. You might have seen me unbox this one in a group of books that I got, and this was a big box of books. This one came in it. It was supposed to be for a curriculum that we're not going to use, but this looked really good and I just wanted to read it. And I figured it would be a good way for me to review to see if it's something that I want my son to read. And it was a really good whodunit. This was a really well done, well crafted book, and I thought it was actually kind of funny. This was supposed to be in a middle school literature curriculum. I think my middle schooler could handle it. Now, yes, this deals with death. Obviously, there is a murder on a train, so everybody has to figure out who did it. There is a detective and his partner, and they're basically just eliminating suspects to figure out who the murderer on the train is. I thought it was really well done. I did. I could see why Agatha Christie is very popular. You have to make that call with your kids if this is, something as far as like a subject matter you would want them to read. Of course, my middle schooler could definitely handle this. He watches, shows on television that deal with things that are much more mature than this even. So, of course, with our discretion too. But just coming from a law enforcement family, yeah, that's definitely something he could handle. It's not gory or glorified or anything like that, but it's more about the mystery of what happened rather than the that side of it, if you can understand what I'm saying there. Overall, it was a really good book. I think I gave that one 4 stars. As I'm reviewing literature in this one, I have my Anne of Green Gables mug that my mom got me for my birthday this year. Isn't it cute? I love this mug. Okay, so the next book, or books I should say, is the Yesterday series. And this was a huge series of books, like huge. She broke the series up into 8 books, okay? They really could have been put together more, I think. I don't know if that was a move on the publishers to try to get more books out there just to make you buy more books. I don't know. Honestly, that was the only complaint that I could see down in the reviews of the books, was just how oddly they were chopped up when 2 or 3 of those books could have been combined to make a more complete book. However, I really didn't have to worry about it because it was a Kindle Unlimited thing for me. So basically, Kindle Unlimited, if you don't know what that is, it's a subscription service through Amazon where they include a ton of books in the Kindle Unlimited subscription, and it's kind of like Netflix for your Kindle. So basically, I pay a fee once a month. I think it's like $11, but don't quote me on that. I'm not sure off the top of my head. And you can just select different books out of Kindle Unlimited, and they're free. and you kind of just borrow them and then just return them when you're finished, and you can borrow up to a certain amount. This is great because I have a kid who's a big reader and we got him his own Kindle, so I can share the books in my Kindle library with him. So if I see something on Kindle Unlimited, I'll get it on my Kindle and I'll share it straight to his Kindle. So it's really neat. Everything's kind of like connected that way. So all of the books 1 through 8 right now are on Kindle Unlimited, and I made it through the end of book 6 because the next 2 books are about another character in the story. So I made it up to there, and then I kind of lost interest. I don't know, sometimes I do that. But the main story is the one that I finished, and it was broken up into 6 different books. I want to say this is more adult. This is a time-traveling Christian series. So the first good thing about this series is, one, it's a Christian series. Yes, there's a supernatural element. She can time travel, but everything is attributed to the Lord in this whole thing. And throughout the entire book, we really see how she's learning to trust God through this strange ability that she has, and what her purpose and role is in this world to help bring about the will of God. So I want to say that was the best part of this whole series, was everything kept coming back to that, and I liked that aspect of it. That was really interesting. It was something that I really wasn't expecting out of something with a little bit of a supernatural twist, although I am very careful about how far I go into supernatural things, just because in the Christian world it can get really weird. Like, I don't like witchcraft and things like that. I don't like the horror genre, and I definitely would stay away from all that type of stuff. But this was, I think, tastefully done. It was just kind of like if this could happen, what would it look like for a Christian? I guess that's the best way I could explain it. Now, the downsides of this. Hannah, our main character, is 19, I think, when this begins, and it definitely feels like a 19-year-old, and I have never felt so old reading something. I guess my 40th birthday is coming up. I kind of felt 40 while reading this, because she really wrote her in this story to sound like a 19-year-old, or to sound like someone in their early 20s, because we really see her aging throughout this whole series too. I felt like she was very immature at times, and that was the only thing that really, I guess, I struggled with getting through the first couple of books, because Hannah felt so immature, and it just kind of like got on my nerves a little bit. But I will say she does age and mature throughout the series, and I was glad to see that. I liked the progression of seeing her grow up throughout the entire story. And that too kind of reminded me of Anne of Green Gables, where you really saw Anne maturing and growing throughout the entire series. It was well crafted in that manner. So throughout this whole series, Hannah is able to have this ability to travel back in time, and basically the very first scene of the first book is like everything just kind of explodes. She's driving in her car and she comes upon this family who's wrecked on the side of the road, and she saves them, not knowing the cost of saving them, and it's going to later on save her life and the lives of everybody that she loves, and how it's going to change the events of everything in her life by saving these people. And it is a really tastefully done story. I thought it was really neat. Definitely held my attention. I binged these books. There was a lot of books. It was 6, but especially on my Kindle, I'm just a really fast reader. So, and when I'm really interested in a story, I read even faster because I just have to know what happens. I thought it was really a well-crafted story. It was interesting. The characters were really interesting. There was a lot of twists and turns in the story. And you kind of get to, I like how she showed people in different timelines what it would look like. So it was really interesting, and it reminded me a lot of the Timeless series. You guys know I love the Timeless series so much. There are kind of some parallels between those, where we get to see, like, you know, different characters in different settings and things like that. Really, really neat stuff. I liked it a lot. And by the end of the 6th book, everything was just kind of wrapped up with a big red bow, and I liked that. Now, as far as age groups for this is the only thing that I feel like I have to kind of slap a warning label on. While there's nothing explicit in the books, there are some fade to black scenes with a married couple, and I don't know if I would let my teen girls read it. Honestly, it felt just too mature. It's not too mature for an adult, but it felt too immature for a teen reader, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I personally wouldn't. If you're interested in the story, I would suggest grabbing them on Kindle Unlimited and kind of just going through it yourself. You'll probably like it. It's a really cool story. And that's the only thing I would really slap a label on. I'm not sure if I would let my teen girls read it. I think it's kind of more written for adults, but that's just me. Okay, so there's the 6-book series. I had to spend a little bit more time on that because it is such a big series. So I don't know if I'm gonna read the last 2 books. I'm halfway through book 7. I don't know if I'm gonna pick it up. I might just finish it to finish it, you know what I mean? If I do, then I'll put it in next month's roundup of books that I read. So the next book that I read is ironically titled How to Read a Book. This is on the Canon Plus app. I actually listened to this book. I'm thinking about actually buying a hard copy of this book, and a lot of times I don't do that. If I've listened to the book, I'm actually thinking about buying a hard copy of this book. How to Read a Book is exactly what it sounds like, but we're not talking about like the physical aspect of reading a book. I'm assuming you all know how to read if you're watching this video. What I'm talking about is how to select the right books. And this is taken from a Christian perspective. It's one of the best books that I have read or listened to on literature itself, especially on Christian literature. This is written by a pastor and a professor, and I believe he probably teaches over at New St. Andrews. It's really well done. Very, very well done. I know I was convicted over, you know, some of the things that I have read over the years while listening to this book. And if I'm ever feeling convicted, I know it's a good book. You know what I mean? And it really inspired me to make some changes to some of the things that I'm probably picking up. Like not that I'm choosing bad books, but I'm choosing things when there are better options out there. You know what I mean? And it really reminded me of the webinar from Generations with Kevin Swanson, which I'll talk more about in a second. But that really, I think, kind of went together. And, you know, he really talks about, as a Christian, things that we should be picking up and reading. So he talks about the aspects of how to read. Like, he goes into like micro reading and macro reading, you know, things like that, which was really, really interesting. And I found out that I'm not as weird about reading as I thought that I was, because I tend to skim sometimes. There's actually a word and a definition for that, and now I don't feel as strange, I guess. Like, I'm not as weird as I thought I was with the technique that I use for reading. So, you know, he goes over that, but he also goes over, which was my favorite part, how to select books as a Christian to read and the things that we should be reading. And of course that list is going to look different for everybody, but he gives some great pointers, and then he actually gives some of his very favorite books in there too. So they're like, I'm a list kind of girl. I love a list, and he gives all kinds of lists in this whole book. It was just organized in a way that just kind of made my heart happy. So I think I might actually buy a hard copy of this book because it was really neat. 5 stars to that one. Loved it. So the last book that I read is Apostate from Kevin Swanson. Now, I've had this on my shelf for maybe a year, maybe. I bought this in one of the Generation sales, and this was, as a homeschool mom, I think every mom needs this book. If you are a Christian homeschool mom, you need to get this book, because a lot of Christian homeschooling curriculum has these authors in it. You need to read about these authors before you give them to your kids. I wish I had done this so many years ago. So this book is about the philosophers and the literature giants who apostatized from the faith, and how they have basically shaped Western thinking. And this is where Kevin Swanson, I think, really shines as an author and as a speaker, because he knows philosophy and literature very well. Like that is his strong point. When you read his textbooks, you can tell that this is like his life's work. I was very impressed by this book, and at the same time very appalled. Reading about Shakespeare, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Mark Twain, just reading about these men and knowing that I gave my kids some of these books over the years kind of made my stomach turn. So there's going to be some changes in our curriculum going forward, but I wish I would have read this when they were little so I could have prevented myself from giving my kids these books. But, you know, everything, the way that I look at it, the Lord has a plan, and we're going according to that plan. So whatever the purpose was for me to do that, it happened, and I just have to trust that, you know, the Lord's will is being done no matter what. So going forward though, we're going to make some changes. So as I was reading this book, like every chapter and every new person, you know, my husband and I would just sit and talk about it for a long time. And it's like, I can't believe I never knew this. Like, I read these men in school and I read all of their works and things like that, and I had no idea. But now knowing that, their works make so much more sense. Now going back and understanding their worldview and understanding what they were writing. I mean, some of these men were into like dark satanic things, and I had no clue. So I'm glad that I know now, but there will be some changes. So that's kind of, for me, this is like essential reading for homeschool parents. For Christian homeschool parents, definitely grab the book Apostate. I will leave a link down below for it. One of the best books that I read. I really think it's essential reading if you are a homeschool parent. I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a great rest of your day and happy homeschooling.